Grace, mercy, peace, and truth be to you from God our Father and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. When I was younger, I had cars and we had planes, different things that were not as sophisticated as they have them today. You could take out a car, if you remember, maybe those that are my age, they often had some kind of, there was an electrical, a little cord that attached to the vehicle, and you could press the control and it would go on. And even as I got older and things, you could have things that were even, some of them were remote control, so you could do it, you didn't need a wire, you could just do it by remote control. And even now you can get to a point where you can program these things. You can program, maybe some of you, the younger kids have them, you can program, you have cars that, or different kinds of vehicles that you can program, and it will go where you want it to go, and you can just put it on, maybe like autopilot, and just kind of let it go where you want it to go. The only problem with that is what? If you put something, say you have it programmed to go somewhere, the only problem is, if something comes up that you weren't expecting to be there and you programmed it in a certain way, what will happen? If it was, say you had something that was a brick or the house that came up and you didn't have the car in the right place, you could easily run into the house if you hadn't programmed it right, or you put it in a place you hadn't originally thought, boom, it runs right in there. Because it was on autopilot. It was something that was going on its own. Even airplanes today, pilots can do that as well, put the plane on autopilot. And what's the problem? The problem is with that, if something comes up that isn't expected, you better get off autopilot in order to have somebody in control of what is happening. For us today, in our lessons, we're thinking about a different kind of autopilot. Not P-I-L-O-T, but autopilot. P-I-L-A-T-E. Autopilot. Pilot trying to get through his, you want to call it not a trial, but he was just there and he was questioning and figuring out what to do with Jesus. As he's trying to get through that whole situation, he really has in his life that he is on autopilot. He is piloting his life, P-I-L-O-T, so that as he moves in one way or another, he's trying to make sure that he can, on the one hand, he can stay and make sure that he pleases those that he has to please. And on the other hand, when he has to deal with the truth or something is being questioned in his life, he starts to wonder, well, maybe the way I'm programmed here is not the right way. But he does continues to do what he has done, is that he takes his autopiloting life, tries to straddle the way he thinks life should go, follows the pattern that he wants, and doesn't change what he needs to do. And for us, if we have an autopilot, P-I-L-A-T-E, an autopilot kind of spirituality, which is, here's what my view is, and I want to straddle in some way my life between how I live in this world, what I believe in this world, in Jesus. If I want to do the P-I-L-A-T-E spirituality, there is nothing at all to boast about in that. And God, help us not to boast in that way. Boasting. That's what we've been emphasizing this Lenten season, using Galatians chapter 6, verse 14. When we say, we continue to proclaim the truth, as Paul said, may I never boast except in the cross of Jesus Christ. No autopiloting. I don't want to do anything that would take me away from boasting in Jesus Christ. May I never boast in anything. May I never boast except in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, through which the world has been crucified to me and I to the world. I want to make sure that I'm not like Pontius Pilate, trying to walk that fine line between serving the truth, which for us we know is Christ, and then serving the world, which is what Pilate was trying to avoid. That text, you read it, when you read it all compiled together, Pilate had tons of chances, did he? Tons of chances to be able to, what is going on here? Listen to the text. It's recorded quoted for us from Matthew 27, part of what we read in the compilation. The text is in your bulletin. You may follow along if you'd like. Now it was the governor's custom at the festival to release a prisoner chosen by the crowd. At that time, they had a well-known prisoner whose name was Barabbas. I'm just going to step aside for a moment with that. If you look in the new NIV, it's very interesting because they don't have Barabbas there. They have a man named who was Jesus Barabbas. If you look into the Greek, there are some of the texts, I'm not sure, and I didn't go back and look, why the NIV chose to put Jesus in there. Because there are only a few of the manuscripts that have that. The majority do not. But it's interesting. There is a possibility that it was Jesus Barabbas, which meant that the people were deciding between Jesus Barabbas and Jesus the Messiah. And if you look at the word Barabbas, the name could come from, maybe you know the word bar mitzvah, son of the commandment, bar, the word for son. Barabbas means bar. Abba is the Aramaic for father, son of the father. There is a slight possibility that the offering that was being there, and how unbelievably the choice Pilate had, Jesus, the son of the Father, versus Jesus, the son of the Father with a capital F, the Father, the Son, the Father, God the Father. What a choice Pilate had to make. Either way, however the Greek is, we know it's Barabbas versus Jesus. So when the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked them, which of the two do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah, or Christ? If he knew it, for he knew it was out of self-interest that they had handed Jesus over to him. There's that autopilot starting to kick in. With all those opportunities, he had the opportunity, he kind of goes in between. Look, there's no way they're going to take this criminal, this insurrectionist, this murderer versus Jesus. I'll give him a choice. But he even knew that it was out of self-interest. He knew that what they were accusing Jesus of was false. The religious leaders, it was false. Now remember, go back to all this that we've been talking about for weeks. Jesus is here. He is not blaming. God does not blame per se the Jews. He does not blame Pilate. He does not blame the religious leaders for Jesus' death. People are held accountable for their relationship with God. But Jesus, remember, went to the cross willingly. All of this is part of God's plan. So it isn't that, only because of this person or these people that Jesus died. No, that's the plan. But there's Pilate. And it's so interesting, isn't it, when you look at all the chances that he had. He's trying to get rid of Pilate. He's trying to get rid of Jesus through Barabbas. He knows what's in their hearts. And he heard Jesus already testifying about truth. We had that last week. Anyone on the side of truth listens to me. So there's Pilate now trying to wrestle with, in his infamous question, what is the truth? Trying to wrestle with that. Just like we have to wrestle with it today. Because people in our day and age, when we look at the truth, what is truth to people today as well? Truth is what we've determined. There's an expression about the type of society, culture we have is often called postmodern. What does that mean, postmodern? We live in an age where people, yes, they'll say there's truth, but the truth is what I think as a group. It's almost a group thing. And we want to take back what may be traditional values, especially when you're thinking of morality. What do I do? What is that truth? It's what I determine it to be. It's what I feel. It's what I think it should be. And I will make sure, as part of a group, that I will now say, this is the truth. And if you believe something else, don't believe in it. And we don't even want to hear it anymore. Well, there's Pilate, stuck right there almost in the same way. Who does he follow? The people that are trying to say, look, here's what we claim to be the truth. And Pilate knowing what that truth is, which is what we as believers know is the truth based on the Word. So Pilate knew, here's Jesus saying, I have a kingdom. It's not of this world. It's not of this place. Well, Pilate's still sitting, he's wondering what, then he hears the lyrics of, boy, he claims to be the Son of God. but he's doing that auto, P-I-L-A-T-E, or P-I-L-O-T. He's just moving along. I got to straddle. What do? I got to straddle. And then to top it off, as we heard in our text, while Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him this message: don't have anything to do with that innocent man. Interesting, too, the Greek word for that is righteous. Some people think, some scholars think, there's a possibility that she really is somebody who believed in Jesus. I'm not sure based on how that word is used in the text. It's probably that she is just feeling something as well. It would be interesting to see how Mrs. Pilate in heaven, if she is there, what she was thinking about at the time. But she said, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him. Here's Pilate again. Here's Pilate. What do I do now? My wife is saying is suffering for what she had received in a dream. But then, as we see in our text, verse 20, but the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus executed. Which of the two do you want me to release to you? Asked the governor. Barabbas, they answered. What shall I do then with Jesus, who was called the Messiah? Pilate asked. They all answered, crucify him. Why? What crime has he committed? Asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, crucify him. There's the pressure. You've got the religious leaders stoking up the crowd. You have the people now shouting to crucify him. Pilate now is wondering what to do. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What do I do? I'll even flog him. I'll punish him and release him to you. But he doesn't change. When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but that instead an uproar was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd. I am innocent of this man's blood, he said. It is your responsibility. Wash your hands. And by thinking and looking at your conscience, what is it when we say spirituality? Autopilot, P-I-L-T-E. Autopilot spirituality is nothing to boast about. Pilate thinking that, all right, I've done what I can do, even though, remember, he had authority to say no. Washes his hands, symbolically of, I want nothing, I'm innocent of this thing, you're going to do it, it's your responsibility. Even though he had authority, it's still his responsibility. It was his responsibility, as it is with us. It is our responsibility as believers to see where in our life are we on auto, P-I-L-T-E. Are we willing to see all the things that are around us? And we want to be able to say, Lord, I want to be devoted to you, but I seem to be also drawn into things of this world in a way that may detract my life from you. We look at our own lives and we say, oh, there are certain circumstances in my life. I can't help the way that I live. I can't help the way that I think. I can't help by the way that I plan for the future. I can't help my personality and the way that I deal with things. I'm just who I am, and if I get a little bit out of sorts at times, you know, it's that. And doing the church thing is good, but we're living it. God expects me to live 24/7 for him? What was his real problem? He was afraid. Pilate was afraid. He was on autopiloting himself. He was afraid to say, if I look and follow and look more into this Jesus and what he is saying, and I'm going to change. I've got to reprogram the way that I am. What about us? All the people answered, his blood is on us and our children. What in the world did that mean? His blood is on us and our children. Well, they were on spiritual autopilot as well, P-I-L-T-E. So much of Jerusalem. Here's what we think. Here's what we believe about what God has told us, according to what we believe. We kind of think maybe at times that Jesus is the Messiah, but the majority of people know, let his blood be on us, which is so ironic. Jesus' blood was on them and forgiving them for their sins as well. But the reality is, if you try to go in between You want to be religious, and yet at the same time, you want to reject Christ, and you want to live your own spirituality, which is what Pilate was doing, and what the Jewish leaders were doing, and what the Jewish people in Jerusalem were doing. And then you say, is that truly what all of us do without Jesus? How is that fulfilled? What Jesus was saying about the blood being on us and our children. They did not repent as a city. Do you remember what Jesus said when he was coming in on Palm Sunday? As he approached Jerusalem, he saw the city recorded in Luke, and he wept over it and said, if you, even you, had only known on this day what would bring you peace, but now is hidden from your eyes. The days will come upon you when your enemies will build an embankment against you and encircle you and hem you in on every side. They will dash you to the ground, you and your children within your walls. They will not leave one stone on another, because you did not recognize the time of God's coming to you. You went on Autopilate, and you lost your time of grace. And Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 A.D. It's for each of us as a reminder to say, Lord, I know and believe what you've accomplished for me. I have the peace that you can only give me. I want to, Lord, let me not get into a point where I'm like being an Autopilate. Then they released Barabbas to them, but he had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. What a way. After all that deliberation, take him away. One question to ask for each of us when we look at our own lives. And that question is that. Each of us ask ourselves this question. If I was really living for Jesus and not on autopilot, Autopilate. If I was really living for Jesus, how would my life change? If I was really living for Jesus, how would my life change? Now again, that's a loaded question. It's not a fair question, is it? Because we know that we are sinful human beings. And the answer for each one of us should really be, Lord, I am. I am living for you each day, and I live in the light of the forgiveness of sins. But it's also a reminder to jolt us to think a little bit, Lord, if I really have gotten into autopiloting and I'm trying to balance myself between living in this world with all its temptations and knowing my own sins and committing myself and wanting to live for you fully, daily, and I pray that each of us can say that. I hope and pray that each one of us can say, Lord, yes, each day I want to live 24/7 for you, no boasting about any kind of life that I